I've never heard a Bert Kreischer routine in my life, and I've never seen any of his Rogan appearances, but an old friend of mine from work asked me to see this movie with him, and it had been a few years. I figured, why not? I figured I might get like one or two good laughs out of this, but Bert Kreischer's The Machine surprised me, and not in the way that you might think. Again, since I've never heard any of his routines, I can't really tell how much of this movie reflects his stage persona and how much he's trying to be like a legitimate actor in this. But for the first 20 minutes, it feels like a chore to sit through his acting because he's playing another washed-up actor who is completely oblivious to how bad of a husband and father he is in his home life. Meanwhile, he can't settle his own relationship with his father, and you've heard these jokes a million times. You've heard them said the exact same way a million times. And it takes up until the moment he and Hamill step into Russia where things really balance out, and Kreischer himself becomes a much more likable character. And we get to see the differences between his persona and his real-life self. When he's Bert Kreischer as the person, he's a lot more awkward and timid. And once in a while you smile or chuckle at that, but when he is drunk off his ass, he's cocky, so sure of himself, and about to do whatever it takes to get out of the danger that he's in and protect his family, brings out the best laughs. I also thought that Mark Hamill himself was going to get the best laughs, and I was super excited. Like, he was the reason I had any interest in checking this movie out, and yeah, Mark Hamill's just kind of there. He's just the curmudgeon father who's always putting Kreischer down. He doesn't really say that many funny things while he's doing it. There are one or two good dream sequences where he's like the devil that Kreischer thinks he is, but outside of that, he really doesn't contribute much to the action either, because dude is so old at this point that he can barely even run. He just spends the majority of it with his hands in the air, and that running gag, along with many others, got old after a while. Jimmy Tatro, or Tatro, I just know him as the Jump Street roommate, was really good as Kreischer's younger self, where he explores how Kreischer got his stage persona while he was in Russia, and a surprisingly amount of personal damage and guilt that came with it that I don't want to spoil, but from a dramatic standpoint for an action comedy like this, it was surprisingly well handled. And Iva Babić, something Croatian, I don't know, she's not even really Russian, and honestly, you can spot how many fake Russian accents are in this movie, but it is legitimately funny, I will give it that. And as the initial villain of the movie, she is badass and hilarious simultaneously at the exact same time. Pretty cool scene transition, huh? There are so many more like them, and as irritating as the text behind people got after a while, it was a surprisingly neat little stylistic effect that added a tad bit to each boring generic scene transition. Now this is what I thought the action sequences were going to look like. Here's how they actually are. For being one of Joe Rogan's buddies, I was expecting The Machine to be a little darker. I mean, in terms of the subject matter, there could have been more profanity, there could have been more hilarious, over-the-top gore, there could have been more action sequences, considering there are 3 fights for the 110 minutes. Gotta love that comedies are overstaying their welcome, but you can blame Judd Apatow for that. Like I said before, there were some running gags that weren't even funny the first time. Like, I lost count of how many moments Kreischer was called some fat ass with man titties, which... Okay, the first couple times someone said man titties, that actually was legitimately funny, but it got old after a while. But the best bits really do come from the comedic timing and delivery of these actors who gave a lot more effort into these characters and to the script than it had any right to. And it's amazing how for an action comedy about a famous comedian playing himself, something that's been done to death already and only recently has been done great in my opinion, but as is, it's actually an okay comedy. If if you're into any stand-up comedy nowadays, I'd say give it a chance. You'll probably have a few decent laughs. But me personally, I was more impressed by how stylistic and how exhilarating the action sequences were. I mean, this has better fight choreography and camera work than most Marvel movies. Like, that's worth the price of admission alone, in my opinion. And with that, that covers just about everything about The Machine. Thank you guys so much for sticking all the way for the video. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of The Machine, or should I watch more Bert Kreischer if I found this movie just okay? Or what's a good stand-up comedian to listen to nowadays? Because it's getting harder and harder to figure that part out. Whatever it is, let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more recreations and reviews. Take care, everybody.